Hey everyone, JI64 here and welcome back to another video, and today I'm reviewing the finale of Star Wars Andor. So without further ado, let's begin. Alright, so the first episode begins with Luthen meeting up with his spy in the ISB headquarters, who tells him that the Empire had to cover up with the Gormans to get the mineral for the weapon, and he talked about Galen Erso and Scarif, the Kyber crystals, and he basically has discovered the secret to everything, and this is the leak that kicks off the whole rebels finding out about the Death Star, and it's just such a cool scene, the music, the tension, and I love how Luthen kills him afterwards, because it's he's not worth the effort to get out of and to extract from Coruscant at this point, which is so sad, but it also makes sense. So it's brutal, but I love it. So Luthen meets up with his assistant, they split up, and Luthen begins to destroy all the evidence inside of his shop. He destroys most of it, but doesn't get the chance to destroy all of it, as ISB supervisor Miro shows up, and it's so cool that these two are finally meeting, because she's been hunting him for so long and he's known her all along. So I love the tension in the scene, and I love how Luthen is just making small talk, just trying to dodge around it, and just everything. But then she pulls out the Imperial device from season 1, and Luthen stops pretending because he knows he's caught. And I love how Luthen is the rebellion's gone, it's flown away, it's everywhere now. It's just such a cool scene, and I just love it. Dedro turns around and sees that he's destroying evidence, and then she points a blaster at him, but he then ends up trying to kill himself with a knife, but Dedro calls in the cavalry, and they get a medic in here, and he gets taken away on a ship, and it's just so good. I just love, God, I just love this series, man. It's just so good. Luthen assistant sees this, and she has no choice but to try and find him to kill him, to make sure he doesn't talk to the Empire, which is what he would have wanted. We cut back to the ISB headquarters, where Dedro's assistant informs Partagas that one of their own has been killed on a park bench, and I love how he's Dedro has been told what will happen if she steps out of line, and we see that, and it's just really good. Oh yeah, so we see Luthen's assistant at the old meetup place, bunker, and we finally get some flashbacks to excuse me. Yeah, we finally get some flashbacks to Luthen's backstory, where we see that he was an Imperial soldier at a battle, but he just did not like it whatsoever. So as she's getting ready to go get him, we see flashbacks where Luthen finds her as a girl hiding inside the ship, just trying to avoid the battle. So Luthen then makes a choice to take her with him as they both escape. We cut back to Dedro Miro, who is trying to keep Luthen alive to question him, and we can tell she's just getting desperate at this point, because we can see that she's starting to lose her grip just a little bit. His assistant breaks into the hospital, uses a device to steal some clothes to sneak in and move around and stuff, and then we see that Dedro gets arrested by the ISB for breaking several rules, and then we cut back to some more flashbacks where we see Luthen and basically his adopted daughter making a deal, selling some artifacts and stuff, and we kind of see how they start their business up a little. And I love how she's am I your daughter now? When it's useful. So I just really like their relationship. It's just really cool. Another flashback happens, and we see that they're once again selling an artifact on an unknown planet. But then she sees a bunch of stormtroopers killing a bunch of prisoners, and she's when are we gonna start fighting back? And she's we already have. We fight to win, but that means we lose. And he basically teaches her the rebellion, and how to fight the Empire. We then get another flashback right before she ignites a bomb in the hospital, where we see they're on Naboo, which is really cool. And basically Luthen is trying to help her get her revenge to fuel that fire, that kind of spark of rebellion. And I love how she's you promised, and he's I lie, get used to it. And then I like how when they're about to press the button, he's look at me. so she's not looking at the explosion when it happens, which is such a cool little detail that I just love. And like again, I love that it's on Naboo. Like we haven't seen Naboo in live action in like years, so it's like so cool to see again. We cut back to the present where we see that everything's blowing up and like she planted bombs on like the landing pads and like ships are blowing up, which causes a distraction, which allows her to break in and get to Luthen. And this scene is just very emotional, man. Like it's crazy how emotional it is. Like she deattaches the device, keeping him alive, and like he dies, and like she gives him a kiss on the forehead, and it's just so emotional, and it's like it's dark, it's brutal, but it's also kind of beautiful in a weird way, and like I don't know. I just feel like they handled his death very well. So it was very good. We cut to the next episode where we see the ISB is investigating all of the ships getting destroyed and stuff. So we then cut back to Dedro Miro being interrogated by Director Krennic about the Death Star and like her allowing like information be linked and stuff. And like I just love it because it's like there's just so many cool moments in it where she's like, "Yes, I'm a scavenger, but I've had to be." And like I love how like Director Krennic is like he was inside your accounts for 2 hours because they finally figured out who was the spy in the ISB, which was Lonnie, of course. And like I loved how Director Krennic is like, why would you go after him on your own? And it's like I love it the part where it's like, we'll do our best to get on without you. We then cut back to Luthen's assistant who is getting a device to contact help. We see the ISB has located her and realized who she is and like that she does know about the Death Star and all that stuff. We cut back to the rebellion where we see William is like has a device that Luthen gave him to like keep on him, and basically it goes off and he's like, "Oh no, they're in trouble." And then we get my favorite scene of the whole show where we see K2SO and like Bodhi and Cassian playing just a game of cards, drinking, having fun, and then Will comes in and like all scared, being like, "We have a situation." We cut back to the ISB where Director Krennic tells the new guy, like Dedro's old assistant, like, "You are in charge of finding this woman. If you do not find this woman, there will be deadly consequences." And like they put out a bulletin for her and they start hunting her. I love the scenes with K2XO. Like I wish we saw K more in like the series. Like I wish he showed up sooner, just because like he's just funny. He's very entertaining. Like he's just very good, honestly. I just really like him. So they then make the difficult decision to go back and try and rescue Luthen and her assistant, or his assistant, going against the Alliance's orders and basically going to rescue them without their permission. And I love this shot of the rebellion where, like on Yavin, where we see that there is actually multiple layers to the temple, where we see multiple X-wings like stacked up on top of like the temple. So like I felt like that was really cool seeing that. I love this moment with K2XO where he's like, "Do you want to know how many orders we've disobeyed?" And Cassian's like, "I'm not interested." 17. That's like my favorite moment with him in the whole series. And then they jump to hyperspace and like just look at how visually stunning this is. Like, oh, it just looks so good, man. It's just awesome. We see Dedro inside a cell and like her old assistant is asking for advice, and then they go back and try and like find something inside Luthen's shop that might help them locate her. We cut to William talking to the main guy from Rogue One, being like, "Most of this wouldn't be here without Luthen's help," and he gets like put into his like quarters until further notice. The ISB heads back to Luthen's shop where they discover the frequency is still open, so they can like track where the device is located, because you can see most of it's destroyed, but one half of it isn't. So once Cassian gets here, like he uses the device on like the ship to like try and like locate where they are on the planet, but then the ISB tracks that signal and then they like find out where she is. And I love the moment with K2XO where he's like, "I've been to Coruscant before. A parade, actually. There was 200 K2SO units. The Emperor was there." Which I feel like is kind of a cool moment, because I think that might have been when, like, the Emperor, like, introduced the new design for, like, the security droids. They get to Coruscant, they fly through it, and, like, it just looks so visually stunning, and, like, I think Coruscant is my favorite Star Wars planet, honestly. I always keep coming back to it as my favorite, honestly. It just looks so good. They land the ship, they split up, but the ISB is right on their tail. Cassian meets up with Luthen's assistant, and of course she's like, "Of course it would be you." The ISB uses a device to locate them, and like it's just very cool. And she talks to Cassian, being like, "They're building a weapon. The Emperor's energy program. It was all a lie." And like the ISB keeps getting closer to them, and like she keeps telling them like, "You need to tell them this. Memorize it." And she's like, "I'm not leaving without you." The ISB goes through the hallways, and then the episode ends, and we get to the next episode. We see K2XO because he realizes that the comms are down, so he heads out. And I like this one. Imperial's like, "Hey, are you with us?" And he's like, "No," and just bats him to the side. Oh, I love it. And then I love Cassian is like, Luthen never let go of his pride. He was going to get caught. And then she's like, "Thank the galaxy he didn't. He stayed so we could find this information out." And then the episode ends with the ISB closing in on them. The next episode begins with K2XO killing the guy who's keeping the comms down. So they begin to flee the apartment building, but they get caught and a firefight ensues. K2XO like begins to enter the building, just beating the hell out of Imperials, and like the Imperials shoot a stun grenade that sends them flying. Like Luthen's assistant gets injured, and like K2SO comes into the building, and like we see Partagas is just like struggling to get reinforcements because he said like for the bulletin on her to put like a disease, so everyone's busy trying to find her elsewhere, and he's like, "Well, flood it, get anything you can." And then I love how K2SO uses like one of the like officers as like a human shield. I just felt like that was so cool. He then gets there and is like, "I've cleared a path." So they all like escape the complex and flee. And like I love how we see some of the like classic like Imperial like gunners or like gunships. So I feel like that was pretty cool. We then cut back to Yavin 4, and it's like this is the finale, man. Like we're gonna tie in directly in Rogue One, and like we see Mon Mothma talking to Saw Gerrera, being like, "We know you're on Jeddah attacking the cargo shipments there. You're making things more dangerous for everyone." And like we're trying to share information, and like he just cuts her off, being like, "If only you could fight as well as you lie." So it's just very cool seeing like how they're tying into Rogue One. And I have to say, despite the recast, I do like this Bail Organa. Do I wish it was the old actor? Yes. Am I glad that he's at least in the show? Yes. And then I love that we get to see like Admiral Aratus. Like it was very cool to see him again because I just love how they're tying it directly into Rogue One. So that was cool. They get to Yavin 4 and like the X-wings are like, "We will shoot you down unless you transmit your clearance code," and stuff. So they land, and then like Cassian gets taken to the boardroom where we see all the characters from the rebellion in Rogue One, which is just very cool. He tells them all about the Death Star, Jeddah, the kyber crystals, the theory about what the weapon might be, and like basically he's like, and like all the rebels are bad mouthing Luthen, being like, "He's been a thorn in our side," and he's like, "I will not have you disrespect this man who has given everything for the rebellion." So he then goes back to see Luthen's assistant, who's like basically down on her luck. Like she just lost her like direction and just doesn't know what to do anymore. And like we then Cassian then tells Will about like Luthen's death, and they hug. And then we see this is a very nice moment. I like how Vel and Cassian give a toast to everyone that they've lost in the rebellion, and like it's just really good. We then see Partagas like listening to a transmission or like an old log from like what's the kid's name from season one? He like has the manifesto, and like yeah, so basically he's listening to that, and he's like, "We don't know where it comes from. We just can't stop it." And he's like, he then like leaves the room, and then like he asks for some privacy, and then he kills himself. And like I like the stormtrooper's reaction, like and then the guy's like, "Nope, just stay still," because like I think he was gonna get executed for like his failures to like keep everything a secret and like basically just cut any loose ends basically. So that was a cool way to end his character. We then see like Val talking to Cass and be like, "You should talk to Bix before it's too late, because like it's war, anything can happen." And like we know Cassian doesn't see Bix again, which is like I don't know. I'll talk more about that in a little bit because something happens at the end of the episode. We then see Vel meet up with Luthen's assistant, and like they smile, they hug, and like I love how she says the lines, "I have friends everywhere," and like she's like, "You have friends everywhere here," and like basically giving her some more hope and stuff. So I really did like that moment. We then see like the main rebel guy talking to Cassian, being like, "There's one of the Saw's spy that we've been talking to is on the Ring of Kafri, and he will only speak to you," which is really cool. I love how they're tying it directly into Rogue One. Like it's just so good. We then see Mon Mothma and the main rebel guy. I don't remember his name. Like, did they ever mention his name in the movies or shows? Like, I'm actually genuinely curious. So then we see Cassian like have another flashback of his sister, which like in season one he was trying to find his sister who died years ago as like a foolish attempt in hopes of finding her, and like that kicks off the rebellion. I love how K2SO wakes up Cassian is like waking up humans is always confusing. We then see Bail Organa talk to Cassian, and like Bail Organa is like, "If I'm gonna die fighting the Empire, I want to go out swinging." And Cassian's like, "You and Luthen would have gotten along better than you think." And then we finally reach the end of the episode where Cassian's heading off to go like meet up with like their spy on the Ring of Kafri, like basically the beginning of Rogue One, and like we get this slow motion of him walking, like we see like Bodhi training the recruits, and like we see Cassian in his Rogue One vest that we see him in at the beginning of Rogue One, and then we see Will with his new girlfriend like eating breakfast and just kind of like a hopefulness, and like I love how Mon Mothma is just fitting in like just perfectly now. Like she's hanging out with Vel and the other rebels, and like just really cool. And then this shot here was a little confusing. Like we see Mon Mothma's like ex husband at this point, like moving on, like getting drunk with like the old like with like with like Skulden's wife, and like I don't know, it kind of is bizarre. Like I don't think this was really necessary. It kind of threw me off a little. So I don't know, a little weird. We then see Luthen's assistant give like a slight smile, as like, yeah, no, there's some hope left. So we know like we know she's not going to be at the Battle of Yavin because she's too injured, and like we know Will won't be at the Battle of like Scarif because he has a limp in his leg, which means he won't die there. Neither will she. As for Vel, I don't really know what's gonna happen to her. Maybe she dies at the Battle of like Scarif. I don't really know. And then we see like, oh yeah, she definitely got her karma because like I love how like Supervisor Miro just like or like Dedra like just gets put inside the same prison as Cassian to never see the light of day again. Like and like it's a pretty dark scene, but like she doesn't really deserve any sympathy. I mean like she tortured a guy to death, tortured Bix, traumatized her, helped organize a massacre. Like she kind of deserves this, all things considered. So I'm glad to see that she got her karma. So that was cool. We then see Cassian give a slight nod to the Force user from like chapter 3, and like it's just very cool, like just like because he knows that he's not going to survive fighting the Empire, but he's just kind of embracing that destiny. We then see a shot of Saw Gerrera looking over Jeddah with the Star Destroyer, and like we see Director Krennic looking at the Death Star, and like I just love how they're setting up Rogue One perfectly. We then see Cassian and K2SO fly off in their U-wing to go meet up with the Ring of Kafri. So I love how they're tying it into Rogue One. Like it's just the way they did it was just beautiful, magnificent. And then we get definitely the most like gut wrenching like slash beautiful scene in the whole series where we see that Bix was pregnant and like this is Cassian's son. So like and like I think that's one of the main reasons she left is because like it's not really a place for like a mother and a daughter in like a war. So like I think that was the main reason she left, and like God, it's just gut wrenching, but like I think it's a very beautiful scene of her like looking off into the horizon where it's like it was just really good, and like I just really love it. And yeah, that is Star Wars Andor. The series is officially over. I have to say this was a fantastic series. Like the visual effects, the writing, the acting, like I just love this series, man. It was really good. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys thought of the series. Well, hey, this has been fun reviewing it all for you guys, so may the force be with you, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.